back to Foster English. Today we're going to be introducing a new kind of word or part of speech, prepositions. The shape or symbol we're going to use to identify prepositions in Foster English is the plus sign. And that is because prepositions are never alone. Well, they're almost never alone. They probably shouldn't be left alone, because otherwise they wouldn't make much sense. So let's first look at the 4 different kinds of prepositions that exist within the English language. There are prepositions of time, prepositions of place, prepositions of direction, and prepositions of relationship. Generally, these 4 categories are most apparent when we look at prepositional phrases. A phrase is a group of 2 or more words that go together to create one idea, which means you can't separate out words from a phrase without losing the intended meaning. These words are all sort of a package deal. Prepositional phrases are phrases, groups of words that go together to create one idea, that begin with a preposition and end with some kind of a noun. It could be 2 words: at home, at work, with you. But a prepositional phrase will begin with a preposition, end with a noun, but there could be a lot of other words between, because you might have adjectives describing the noun at the end of the prepositional phrase. You might have adverbs that describe the preposition or describe the adjective that is describing the noun at the end of the prepositional phrase. But the point is, you have prepositional phrases, they will generally begin with the preposition and they will generally end with the noun. That's how they are able to be identified. Another way to identify a prepositional phrase is that you can take that whole phrase, usually, and remove it from the sentence and still have a complete thought. Obviously, that doesn't mean you have the same degree of information. It just means that the prepositional phrase adds information to the complete thought, to the sentence, but it's not necessarily grammatically necessary. You can remove prepositional phrases from sentences and still have sentences. Let's just move into the example, okay? If I have the sentence, I'll wait, right? I will wait. That is a complete thought. It tells you all you really need to know about subject and verb, right? I wait. It's what I am doing, except I'm talking about the simple future tense. I will wait. Now, I can add a bunch of prepositional phrases in order to give more information. I could add a prepositional phrase of relationship to show the reason or what I am waiting for, right? I will wait for you. And you might want to know where, the place where we will meet. I will wait for you at the bookstore. Maybe there's more than one bookstore. Which bookstore? At the bookstore in the mall. I'll wait for you at the bookstore in the mall on the first floor after the coffee shop. So I can keep giving all of this added information in order to specify the thought, right? To give more clarity and more information that it may be absolutely necessary in terms of communication, which means that, again, these are not useless words or useless concepts in any way, shape, or form, but they are not grammatically necessary to create complete thoughts, create complete sentences. Necessary words are, generally speaking, nouns and verbs. They're the most important. Without the idea of those 2 kinds of words, you can't communicate anything at all. Prepositional phrases are simply that, added information. And again, that brings us back to that symbol of the plus sign, right? Wherever there's a plus sign, you can probably also take it away. The other way in which prepositions appear in sentences is in the context of phrasal verbs. So a phrasal verb are two or more words that go together to create a new idea of a new action or state of being. So if you have a verb by itself and you add information to it, but the meaning of the verb doesn't change, it's probably not a phrasal verb. And granted, sometimes these changes can be very subtle, and sometimes they can be very different. But let's look at an example. We have the verb to break. If you break something, you render it useless, beyond repair, right? To make something unable to work or function, it breaks, it shatters. That's a fair definition of the verb to break. However, if you break in to a place, if somebody is breaking in something, oh, that's even a different one, right? To break in. So, anyway, to break in either means to enter without permission, or if you're breaking in a new pair of shoes, you're making them more comfortable. If you break into an apartment, then you are entering the apartment without permission, which may not involve breaking anything at all. So these phrasal verbs create very different pictures than the verb by itself. And with the verb break, we also have break out, which could involve something suddenly appearing, or it could be to escape a place. And that could either be a good thing or a bad thing. If you're breaking out of prison, it's pretty bad. But if you're breaking out of your own self-imposed restrictions, maybe that's good. Maybe that too can be bad. And of course, lastly, we have to break up. To break up means something totally different than to break in, or to break out. Sometimes these could be related ideas, but to break up means to separate, to no longer be in relationship, to go your separate ways. And maybe it's one person's choice, maybe it's another person's choice, and maybe the reason is that somebody broke in to something, or maybe somebody broke out of somewhere or something, and maybe there was a lot of breaking involved, but maybe there was none. Maybe it was just a breakup. Maybe that's all that it was. And hearts might be broken, but not in the way that they're shattered on the floor, that they're just in a million pieces. I mean, it still functions, right? You still feel your pulse. Your blood is still pumping through your body, so it means something else. It means something different than what the verb to break usually means. But there you have it, right? We have to break out, to break in, and to break up. All of these mean different things. And that is why 3 of those are phrasal verbs and 1 is just a word, a verb by itself. And all of them have different meanings. Now, usually, phrasal verbs will be simply the verb plus a preposition. But sometimes you might have a verb and more than 1 preposition, which means you may have phrasal verbs of up to 3 words. I can't think of any off the top of my head that would involve 4 words, but it's English. There might be some out there. Comment below if you can think of it. But let's take the verb to look. To look implies that you're using your sense of sight with some measure of will or choice, right? If you look at something, it's not necessarily the same as seeing, and it's not necessarily the same as watching or staring. So it falls somewhere in between on this spectrum, but it's a very common verb. Look at that. And it's going to direct your attention towards whatever the thing is. But if you look up at someone, you could look up. Direct your attention skyward. That is not necessarily a phrasal verb. But if you look up to someone, it means you respect them. It means you emulate them. You want to be like this person. That has a very different meaning than to look. Similarly, to look forward to something could be just, hey, you're driving, look forward to, well, we probably wouldn't say that because this phrasal verb, look forward to, means something so specific. It means to anticipate. It doesn't just mean see what is coming at you right now, it means see what is coming at you in the future. Look forward to this, anticipate it happening, and usually with a very positive connotation, which is just one more way to throw the plus sign into this video. But there are some examples of phrasal verbs where the phrasal verb has a very distinct, very different meaning than the verb by itself. And yes, sometimes that can be very minute, but sometimes what appears to be a phrasal verb may in fact be a verb plus a prepositional phrase. So we look back to that example of look up to the sky, where the meaning of those words will generally have someone looking, and the meaning of the verb hasn't really changed. But if you look up to this individual, this teacher, this author, this famous person, or hopefully more at home, your mother, your father, your grandparents, if you look up to someone, they're probably not in the sky, they are probably in your life. And you are looking up to them, meaning you are respecting them, you are admiring them, and you are hopefully modeling yourself in some ways after this person. As a quick recap or summary, prepositions are never alone, or almost never alone. They generally appear either in prepositional phrases or in phrasal verbs. There are 4 kinds of prepositions. These are mostly apparent in these prepositional phrases: time, place, direction, and relationship. Now you can add prepositions to your group of symbols, and hopefully you can add more information while you are communicating your thoughts, your ideas. You can practice below, ask questions, communicate, because that's what this is all about.